let's wrap it up with a Untimely review. So, as I mentioned earlier in the show, I have completed Hades. So, I'm going to provide you with our Untimely review of the game. As you know, ladies and gentlemen, we are too broke and too non-important to get our games free ahead of time. So we bring you games on our own dime, on our own time when we can, making them Untimely reviews. So this week we're going to be reviewing Hades. Adam, what a game. I am not a roguelite person by any means. The only game I've ever played in this genre would be, I think I played Rogue Legacy, and I liked that game, but I never finished it. Hades hit a switch. I loved it. The game just has the perfect loop in terms of what it does. So, if you're not familiar, you are playing as the son of Hades trapped in the underworld, and you are trying to escape. So you travel through a bunch of different levels of the underworld, facing different demons and bosses as you fight your way up there. There's a bunch of different weapons and different styles. And what the unique hook is of the game is that you are each time you're going through hell, you can get different boons from gods. And so what these are bonus skills. So you can get skills from Aphrodite, Ares, Zeus, Poseidon, Dionysus. Each one has a different sort of flavor. And so as you go through, these gods are giving you blessings. So each run is slightly different depending on the skills and the benefits that you pick up along the way. If you die, you lose all those special abilities and powers from the gods, and you start back at the beginning like you would with a roguelite. Now, what this doesn't mean that you're back to square one. In this game, you get darkness, and allows you to do things like regenerate your health and how much damage you do, a bunch of different abilities that way. So what it does really well is I never feel like I was wasting time by doing runs. Every run I felt a little bit stronger, a little bit better, getting a little bit further ahead. So the first few runs I was dying left, right, and center pretty quickly. You know what? After about 5 or 10 runs, I was starting to clear the first level, no problem. I got to the point where I wasn't dying at all. One issue with the game is I feel like they don't really explain that boon system and like the leveling up very well. I feel like there's a lot of things I wasn't sure what to do, and I ended up watching some YouTube videos on terms of what things do and how the game functions and the mechanics. So I feel like in terms of onboarding and teaching and tutorializing, it could have done a little bit better there. But once you get into the rhythm and you know what you're doing, it is a lot of fun. It's rewarding the player for playing it. And I find that the voice acting is done very well as well. So Zagreus is your main character, and he doesn't sound annoying. He's got this little posh kind of attitude, chip on his shoulder sound, which is kind of good. It's done really well, and then all the gods sound amazing. Story, it's a roguelite, so the story is not the key driving force of the game, but I was engaged enough that I was following along with it. I do feel that the ending, or the first time you get out of hell, isn't as satisfying or rewarding. They kind of have a story mechanic to justify you going back and doing the loops over and over again in different challenges. But I felt like having this great accomplishment that I had beaten the final boss, I felt like it was not satisfying enough for me as the player that, hey, I accomplished this, and then I kind of felt cheated in terms of what the end result was. Gameplay and controls feel great. I love the weapons. I love the gameplay. It feels great. It looks great on the system. The art style is amazing, and it looks so clean and sharp on the PlayStation 5. And the soundtrack is probably one of the best things about this game. I'm going to admit that I've been listening to it at work. It's got this awesome kind of different styles of music, but this heavy metal kind of theme to it. And yeah, the music is awesome, and I really enjoyed it throughout the game and even listening to it outside of it. In terms of difficulty, I didn't find that the game was too hard until I got towards the final boss, and I kind of felt the end that I was kind of burning, like I was kind of not making any progress. I was able to get to the final boss and just kept getting my ass handed to me. That being said, there is an option for you to put on what is known as God mode, and this kind of lowers the difficulty of your skills. I never had to use it, but I was kind of contemplating it at one point or another. If you follow us on Twitter, you saw me kind of going back and forth with some of our listeners about whether I should turn on God mode. So it is there if you find that you are hitting roadblocks in terms of the experience. So overall, I really liked Hades. I fully recommend it, even to people who are not roguelike players. It's definitely a good game, and I think it's coming in at like $40 regular, a little bit more if we're in Canada. I think it's 49 in Canada. Awesome game. I really liked it. I had a lot of fun with it. I don't think I'm going to keep playing it after I got through my first run through of the game. Like there is a narrative to kind of justify you playing it over and over again, but I don't know if I'm compelled enough to keep doing more and more runs and kind of going through that. I feel like I've kind of beaten the game. I've gotten what I want out of it, and I'm good now. So, yeah, great game. I definitely recommend getting this if you are interested at all in this. If it's interesting to you in a slight little bit, thoroughly recommend it. I'm gonna give it, 8.5 out of 10. But yeah, Adam, any questions, any thoughts? Anything I wasn't clear on in terms of the review that I can kind of I can.
No, it's definitely one of those games that I'm definitely going to be taking a look at some point. I know it's on Game Pass right now, so it's one of those things that I'm definitely going to be checking out at some point. I mean, it was a Game of the Year nominee, so I'd be remiss if I wasn't at least taking a look at something like that that's getting that kind of attention. So, especially one of an indie caliber rather than being a AAA game. So,
Yeah, this doesn't feel like an indie game at all, and it definitely deserves that game of the year that it got last year. I don't know what we're gonna do for our game of the years because we don't necessarily play all the games that come out brand new, but if we're doing, this is one of the best, if not the best game that I've played so far this year, and I'm loving it. So
yeah, for sure, it's definitely something I got my eye on, and if I don't get around to it to Game Pass, I'm sure someday I'll get around to it on Steam or something like that. But at least for the time being, it's one of those things where it's like I got to get to play that at some point.
yeah, and if you aren't playing it or don't plan on it, and as soon as this podcast is over, go onto YouTube, find the soundtrack, and just listen to the soundtrack because it is so good. It's an
Supergiant
awesome soundtrack.
games are always great for soundtracks. Every single one
Yeah.
of them have been fantastic for that.
And this one is no different than the other one. So check it out. It's got some really cool ideas there. Give it a listen. Yeah, that's my untimely review for Hades.